A commissioned executive producer sits between the channel controllers and the channel team and the program makers, and so we will be in dialogue with the two. So we'll sometimes talk about different program areas that we might want to commission ideas into with the channel team. Other times we'll take ideas cold from the producers and the independent producers, and we will then take ideas, develop ideas up and get them commissioned hopefully by the channel, and then we'll supervise the production as it goes through from the program makers, just to help feed in intelligence from the channel in terms of the perspective of the channel and the position that the channel might think that this particular idea will occupy. So it's a dialogue, it's an involvement at the start, either in taking an idea and running with it to the channel, or in helping punt ideas out to the program making community, and then it's staying in touch with the program as it delivers. I think people underestimate the extent to which commissioners work collaboratively with program makers. It isn't just that you buy an idea cold, convince the channel, and then buy the idea cold, and then take delivery of it 8 months down the line. You very much work with program makers to help develop up the idea. If you see something in it that's got potential, you'll help, and something in the program maker, you'll help them develop up the idea, and then as the program delivers, you'll really help try and feed in something about the DNA of the channel to the idea so it delivers better for the channel. I think it's impossible for independent program makers to know channels in the way in which commissioners do. It takes a while when you become a commissioner at a channel to get to know the channel's DNA. So inevitably independent program makers that face a number of different channels cannot know a channel as well as you can, and so you hope that you can help bring that to the mix alongside everything else that the program maker wants to get out of the show to arrive at a better show. You want a show that sells itself on its strengths, and some ideas will have facts and knowledge at the core, really importantly, and they may lean more toward that end. Other program ideas may really, the strength might be in the entertainment value that the program can offer, and so you'll end up leaning one way or the other. I don't think factual entertainment as a genre is such a mishmash of different things. It's immediately a mishmash of factual and entertainment. So there's masses of scope to take any idea in the direction you want to take it in. We sit at the broader, more accessible end of knowledge, factual programming ourselves in my team. So we will want a show to feel entertaining in some way, but that isn't just about shiny floors. That can obviously be about an entertaining, dramatic narrative that really builds on emotion. It might be entertaining because it's humorous. There's a real desire on BBC One and BBC Two to imbue programming with those sorts of qualities. Bake Off is very funny, warm, entertaining, but it's all about hugely skilled expertise in the area of baking. So you look for the different strengths in any idea and try and amp them up. There's a lot of very talented producers bringing really good specialist factual content, which feels like straighter factual content to the audiences. And but it's nice to try and bring knowledge to audiences through other sorts of qualities like entertainment and like humor and like human emotion, like drama. So it's a nice challenge to think what can you create that can bring knowledge to people, facts to people, almost smuggled in a way in which they won't necessarily be aware of. They'll come to it because they feel it's a really entertaining proposition, but they'll leave it knowing something about a subject that they didn't know prior to watching. I think different channels will have different demands and different desires and needs, and BBC One and BBC Two are different even between those two channels. I think that BBC Two, for example, you really need an idea to feel either honest in its kind of contrived nature, like Bake Off. It's kind of honestly a competition. It's a bit pantomime in some respects, even though it's got a hell of a lot of really detailed expertise and skilled knowledge within it. It's honestly a competition. Or you've got factual formats like Alex Polizzi The Fixer, which is a business fix format, but it feels very much rooted in the real world and in real people's lives, and it's got a real meaningful legacy, those sorts of things. So I think for me, it's probably best to be one or the other. I think some of the formats that have struggled on BBC One and BBC Two are the ones that feel like they try to exist in the real world, but they've very obviously got the hand of the producer within their construction, and it feels a little bit inauthentic. There's a desire these days. There's documentary is having something of a resurgence, arguably, and that is real people and real stories and real impact. And so I think that formats that can tap into that will do well, or formats that are just honestly competitive and competition one or the other rather than something in between. I think one of the challenges for new producers when they pitch ideas into the big slots that we look after on BBC One and BBC Two is appreciating the sense of scale that we have. There'll be a lot of ideas that come in that feel like they could work, but they just don't feel as multi-layered as they need to be. And in a way, I think it could be quite useful for people to hold up their idea, almost hold it up to a schedule in the Radio Times. Obviously the Radio Times, because that's a BBC publication. And then work out, does this idea feel big enough for the slot that I'm suggesting it will pitch into? And if it doesn't, what can I do to help layer it up? DIY SOS is an idea that started out in daytime or early peak, and has grown as an idea. It's become more and more layered, and now it packs a hell of a lot of punch. It is at once a huge transformative makeover show in that you take a whole house, not just a room, you take a whole house and pull down the walls and put them back together again. That's one important layer, but probably the biggest layer in the programme is the emotional narrative. You come in and meet a really needy family or in some extreme circumstance, and you're hooked with the emotional punch that packs from the off. So it's a really huge, dramatic, emotional narrative within there. You've also got layers like the builders. There's a hell of a lot of builders, and their banter is really important. You've got that sense of a community coming together. That's another really important layer. So there are a hell of a lot of layers in a programme like DIY SOS, and that's what's necessary if you're going to hit those bigger primetime slots on 1 and 2. But that said, that can scare people away, and we are not pitched as many ideas in primetime 1 and 2 as we would like to be. BBC One, 9 o'clock is probably the area that we're pitched less than any other area, because people, I think, in some senses kind of scared of it and feel that it feels too tough to land any idea there. So we do want more ideas in that area, but people should be thinking about scale and how to achieve it, and whether or not that's in talent, or that's on ambition, or that's in the number of different layers. They should think about that. In terms of Fact Ent, there are obviously a lot of big brands in primetime BBC One and 2. The Apprentice, MasterChef on BBC Two, Bake Off. And again, they can scare people away slightly because they feel so big, and people wonder how on earth could we ever suggest a format that could punch that kind of weight. But there is real opportunity to come up with the next one of those, and people aren't bringing us enough of those ideas, and we'd like them to, and we can work with them collaboratively to try and get an idea to pack the kind of punch it will need for those slots. So there's real opportunity for what will be the next Apprentice or Bake Off or MasterChef. But beyond that, Factual Entertainment can also look into other areas. I think that DIY SOS for the BBC is a really important emotional format. It's all about the emotional narrative. Long Lost Family has launched really successfully on ITV in exactly the same terrain. It's relatively simple as an idea, and it really pulls in great viewing figures and real audience appreciation because of the really satisfying emotional narratives it tells. So there are other areas that people can take Fact Ent into. Emotion is a definite one. But also humour. Are there any ways that we can approach factual through humour? And equally, there are not the kind of approaching factual format and factual entertainments from the sense there are a hell of a lot of great factual formats that work on channels like BBC Three and also Channel 4. What shape would they take if they were to be brought over to BBC One in prime time? It's something that feels underexploited. There's a real channel appetite for factual formats at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock on One.